So, we are approximately 3 episodes away from the end of this season of My Hero Academia Vigilante. And while this is another slower episode, we're about to ramp up to some amazing action to the start of the Sky Egg incident. And I'm here to break down everything that you might have missed in this episode, so buckle up because we're about to start now. Because, hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy, Manga, and I'm here to do my breakdown and review for My Hero Academia Vigilantes Season 2, Episode 10. And like I said, there's a lot of stuff that we need to dive in and break down and review. So before we do that, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't done so, to subscribe to my YouTube channel where I make My Hero Academia and related content. And if this is something that you're interested in, subscribe. And with that out the way, let's dive right into the episode. And to start off, the title of this episode is 0 Hour, which takes its name from Manga Chapter 49, which was initially titled Storming, but was amended for the volume and release. And this episode actually covers material from chapters 48 and 49 of the manga, as well as the first 19 pages of chapter 50. And the episode actually begins with a small extension of the scene of Koichi visiting the Hoda brothers' shop, looking for Aizawa to give him more information on his quote-unquote patrol. And we see not a lot was actually added, just a few more panning shots of the city, but what they are still able to keep and be the same between the anime and the manga is how we see that Koichi is unable to help in the Captain Celebrity event and was eventually sent away by Kazuho and the gang for being kind of useless. But what is also interesting about this is another change between the anime and the manga, and it's how the portrayal of the advertisement for the Captain Celebrity event is different between both mediums. In the manga, we just see a whole bunch of posters flying through the air to advertise the event for the Sky Egg, while in the anime, we get a more accurate depiction of what an advertisement would look like, which is posters on the side as well as a big screen that is advertising the event. So it is a very small change, but I do like the change in the anime because it is a little bit more realistic and means that a lot more people will actually get advertised that the event is happening versus flyers just flying in the air. But once we get this great interaction between Koichi and the Hoda brothers, we actually cut over after the opening where we see Aizawa and Tsukachi discussing about how the information that they got from Koichi, I mean an anonymous source, wink, has actually gotten them closer to stopping the villain factory, and how Aizawa will be investigating where the villain factory is located, which they later discover is associated with a pharmaceutical company, and how he's going to be doing this investigation with the help of Fat Gum and Monica. And it's from here where the anime is very exposition and flashback heavy and being reliant on it. However, very much like in the manga, in the anime, this entire scene is made a lot more tolerable and a lot more fun due to the interactions of the characters in this scene. But after that exposition, this is where we get more of Monica and Aizawa actually going out in disguises to gather more information that they will need to infiltrate the factory. And like in the manga, Monica says that Aizawa may need to wear a suit, which they are dressed up in. And what's very funny about this scene is how Monica and Aizawa are dressed up in business suits, and Aizawa questions why they need to do this, and Monica gives a very fun answer, which is actually a reference to the main series of events, which is that he may need a suit like this if a scandal ever comes out, which is referencing the fact that Aizawa did need to dress up in a suit and be very clean cut and presentable after the summer camp incident with Class 1A and Class 1B, where Bakugo was kidnapped and the students were attacked, and he had to give a public apology, which was actually used as a distraction to allow for the heroes to rally and find the location of where Bakugo is. So this just really shows how intertwined this spin-off and the main series are, as well as how the spin-off is able to make a lot more references due to it coming out approximately halfway through the run of My Hero Academia proper. But in the anime, very much like in the manga, we see Monica and Aizawa in different disguises, and all of them are pretty much shown in the same way as they were in the manga, just in a different order. However, the anime does make a few changes to the sequence by adding a different shot of them being in the business suit instead of a panel that was in the manga, as well as the anime also cuts a scene of them going up against an assumed villain, but this scene is replaced by them showing an anime original scene of them getting the badge that Monica will later use in the episode to get access to the building for a raid. As well as with that cut, the anime also adds some dialogue between both Monica and Aizawa as they are going through this anime montage. However, we also do get a few panels cut, as well as some lines of dialogue cut showing Aizawa's annoyance, as well as Tsukachi and Fat Gum following them from a distance in a van, as well as we do get a cut panel involving Aizawa, Monica, and Fat Gum fighting off an assumed villain. So yeah, a lot of these changes are made to the episode to kind of streamline to the point of how the actual episode ends, which is with a very cool action sequence. So we're going to be getting a lot more cuts like this in this episode, especially for what comes up next, because along with those cuts, we do have the anime shortening the interaction of Koichi spotting Monica and Aizawa walking together as we cut the scene of Koichi waving at them and the two trying to ignore them. And I like this small change as it makes Koichi feel more considerate of other people's feelings, but it also lessens how annoying or how much of a nuisance he can be, which is very important due to throughout this episode, Koichi feels like he's a nuisance and not able to help anyone at this moment, which is later going to be proven false in the next episode. And we see even more of this depicted as the anime still has Koichi report to the Hoda brothers that Aizawa is quote unquote dating an idol, but it also still shows how he leaves his apartment even though it's his because Kazuho is there and she's doing business and prepping for the event. And like I said, the anime very much cuts out a lot from this scene, including the dialogue around how the other performers are doing for their practice, and even cuts Koichi preparing Kazuho tea and her getting the information on the other band members when it comes to their measurements as well. So a lot is being cut and shortened for the anime so that it could flow a lot better to the point where they want to end, like I said. Because as we reach the midway point of the episode, this is where we start to see the beginning of the Sky Egg event, as the anime shows the tower being a lot more cloudier in the anime than it appears to be in the manga with clearer skies, as we also get to see the groups of people heading into the arena to see the performance of the heroes. And we do get a very cool reference in this entire sequence where we see everyone flooding into the arena, as we get to see in the background Izuku Midoriya as a kid alongside his mother Inko being shown from behind among the people in the Sky Egg. Which makes sense because Deku, even as a kid, was very much a hero fanboy, not just for All Might, but for heroes in general. So it makes sense that he would want to go to an event with some of the best and top-ranking heroes in Japan. And alongside that addition, we do also have the anime slightly extending the heroes' intro sequences, as we see every hero get a little bit more focus in the anime instead of a shared panel very much like in the manga, where we see heroes like Ingenium, Midnight, Best Genius, Edgeshot, the Snake Hero, Uwabami, Ryuku, as well as Mirko, Gang Orca, Snipe, Airjet, Wild Wild Pussycats, Death Arms, Manual, and Wash, all getting more or less a spotlight moment in the anime in a little bit more detail. Heck, we even have Present Mike being the announcer of this event as he's presenting the arrivement of Captain Celebrity. And speaking on Captain Celebrity, this is where we get to finally see the members of Naru Fest begin to perform and support Captain Celebrity very much like how they did in the manga, as we actually cut over to the police alongside Monica, Aizawa, and Fat Gum preparing to raid the facility. And it is from here where the anime once again does remove a few scenes and lines of dialogue that were seen in the manga. For instance, Eraserhead, Fat Gum, and Monica talking about Captain Celebrity's party and going there as a trio is not included in the anime, as well as the anime removes the heroes and Tsukachi waiting in the van in preparation for the raid on Onamaru, and has them outside alongside the rest of the police in the anime. And what's even more interesting is how the anime also slightly extends the raiding sequence by showing more of Fat Gum restraining people, as well as we get the extending of the sequence of the main group entering the lab as we show the villains leaving the tank before they are restrained by Fat Gum and Aizawa. And then we have the scene that I've been waiting for from the manga of the bomber villains breaking out of their tanks, and while Aizawa was able to prevent them from exploding using his erasure quirk, the scarred faced man forces them to explode as he flees the scene in a slightly extended sequence riding on top of the truck as he plans on using these bomber villains to attack Captain Celebrity at the Sky Egg event. And now we cut over to Captain Celebrity making a fool of himself by showing a pic of him, his wife, and his newborn baby in a picture that he was not supposed to show anyone and keep a secret, which eventually angers his wife, which he calls in front of 50,000 people. We then get to see more of the pro heroes as they perform for the crowd, with scenes from the manga such as Ingenium racing and jumping through a hoop, Best Genius making clothes for all of the women heroes there, Snipe and Edgeshot showing off their aim and sniping abilities, and the Wild Wild Pussycats doing what they typically do. As we also have the anime adding a scene of Death Arms and Gang Orca having an arm wrestling competition, and the anime also alters Wash's performance, who in the manga sent Gang Orca as well as his sidekicks into the air with bubbles and water, but this is changed in the anime to Pop, Yu, and Moi in the water vortex, with the little girls actually being in bubbles. And as everyone is mesmerized by this entire sequence of just awesomeness, we actually begin to approach the end of the episode with Makoto telling Koichi to find Captain Celebrity. As he does, who we see Captain Celebrity trying to apologize to his wife as Koichi looks outside of the window and sees the bomber villains from last Christmas coming in to approach him and begin to blow up the Sky Egg building. And what's great about this is that we begin to get the action sequence, which is slightly expanded upon in the anime by showing Captain Celebrity brushing off the bomber's first attack on him, as it being more dramatic in the anime, while putting a lot more emphasis on his aerodynamic barrier, which is actually shown in the brownish orange tint around him in the anime. And the episode comes to an end as we see Koichi has caught himself from falling as Captain Celebrity gets bombarded by attacks while holding up the Sky Egg building, as the episode ends with the anime adding Koichi calling out to Captain in fear, which appears slightly earlier in the anime than what appears in the manga. And yeah, that's pretty much all that we were able to find in this episode for this breakdown and review. Overall, another slower episode, a lot more exposition and a lot more setup, but at least we get a little bit of payoff towards the end, getting some cool action, and this action will most likely continue into the next episode. Whether or not it is going to involve Captain Celebrity, you're just gonna have to see and wait to find out, because there are going to be some fun surprises in the upcoming final 3 episodes. But that's all I really have to say on the topic. So let me ask you this. How did you feel about that episode? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? And do you think that Captain Celebrity is going to be able to survive this bombardment of bombing dragons? Leave your thoughts down below, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content like this. Do all that cool jazz, and hopefully I'll be able to catch you in my next video. Goodbye!